This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibler. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. It is Friday. It's now time for another edition of Tech Briefs, where we catch you up to date on some of the biggest stories in tech from the last week. And joining me today for my co-host, it is Mr. Jeremy Kaplan. Jeremy, hello. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here, Greg. Always a pleasure to talk tech with you. And there's been an awful lot of stuff going on this week.
So much stuff. So let's get started on this too, and start off with, I guess, the first one going way back. Monday seems like so long ago, but this was a pretty big move, and we're talking about the console wars between Microsoft with Xbox and Sony with PlayStation. Microsoft making a move to buy Zenimax, which is a video game production company. You may not know that name, but you probably know Bethesda if you play any amount of games, because they're the ones with Elder Scrolls, with Fallout, with huge franchises. Microsoft paid $7.5 billion for them, which shows how big of a move they want to make and how important these games are. And I guess, Jeremy, to just ask you here right out of the gate, how do you feel about this move, I guess? And what does this mean when it comes to these console wars between Xbox and PlayStation 5?
Yeah, it's an enormous acquisition. So to put it in context, this is the third biggest acquisition in Microsoft's history. LinkedIn was enormously costly and expensive, but this is so that was the biggest one, but this is about as much as they paid for Skype. Like, it's just an awful lot of money. But think about what comes with that. It's just a vast amount of some of the most popular games on the market. So what Microsoft's doing here is saying, we're the ones that have these, we have all these franchises, and there's sort of this conclusion that you have to come to that, well, if I'm going to get a console, if I'm going to get one of these next generation consoles coming out in the next couple of months, I probably want to get an Xbox because they have all the good games. But I don't think it's quite so cut and dry, right? Because Microsoft has been very clear that they will continue developing games and selling games for other platforms. So to me, what this is all about, yes, it's a business, of course. We could talk about the streaming market as well. But I think Microsoft has made a point in the past of saying, we're going to put out software for whoever, wherever the customer is, that's where we're going to go. So you see that with the new Surface Duo phone that they've got, which is running Android. They're not making their own software platforms anymore. We're just going to do it on Android. And I think the same thing is at play here. So we are going to see some of these popular titles are going to be coming over to the PlayStation 5. They'll probably be on Xbox as well. And perhaps they might be better on Xbox, who knows? But Microsoft is clear, we're going to publish across a range of different platforms. Wherever you are, that's where we're going to put the games out.
I think that's, definitely an interesting move on their part, because, I mean, those kind of franchises, too, when you get something like Elder Scrolls or Fallout, I mean, those are going to be popular no matter what. You're going to make a ton of money. But $7.5 billion, I did not realize that's the second biggest acquisition, or second or third, or whatever you just said right there. It's a huge acquisition. So that was a big one earlier this week, and we've got more details at digitaltrends.com. Going on to another big thing this week, and there's so much, so it's hard to even narrow down what the biggest topics were. But certainly Tesla with Battery Day, as Elon Musk called it. That was a big one because it's kind of Tesla combining their shareholder meeting with this big announcement about the batteries. And that's one of the big things, of course, with electric vehicles. Just to give you the facts, the new battery technology, he said, will allow for 50% more energy storage and 54% more miles per charge, essentially. They also unveiled the Model S Plaid, which is a ridiculous high-end electric vehicle, 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, 200 miles per hour, I think it was. Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Model S Plaid at 520-mile battery life. It's also $140,000, so I don't think a lot of people are going to be picking that one up. But I think one of the big things was the saying that he thinks that they're going to be able to put out a $25,000 electric vehicle, a Tesla electric vehicle, within 3 years. And that, to me, seems like one of the biggest things from there. But I want to know your take. What do you think about this? And is this another thing that Elon can actually back up, or is it just more talk?
Yeah, I agree. That's a great price point. And for him to come out and say, we're going to be able to hit this next couple of years, that's putting a stake in the ground for sure. If anybody can do it, you got to think Elon Musk can. This is a man who's achieved most of what he's been saying. What I liked about the whole announcement that came out, there was just no fluff. When other companies come out and give their big unveilings of their new products, there's sometimes is a little bit of hype and like, let's sell in the company, and here's what look at how good we are, look at how big the App Store is. Not that I'm pointing fingers, Apple. But Elon Musk did not do that. There was a whole lot of really big announcements. To me, I think the big announcement was the 520-mile range. There's another company that's getting into EVs, and they're called Lucid. They make a car, or they're claiming to at some point make a car called the Lucid Air, which has a 517-mile range, which to me, when that came out a couple months back, we're like, wow, that's enormous. How do you do anything like that? And then Tesla comes along and says, 517, we got 520 over here. We can do it even better than you can. A little bit of one-upsmanship perhaps, but this is the company that's doing all of this cool battery technology, doing all the revolutions, making the science to make it work. And if anybody can, I think that they can. I think they have a lot of goodwill. It's a great brand name. People have a lot of confidence in them. I would not be surprised if they can hit both of those milestones. This is the guy that landed a rocket on a floating barge, for God's sake.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. And with that, like you said, the brand name alone. So if they can get that down to the $25,000 price range, I mean, I know a lot of people who want Teslas, but right now that price range is just a little bit. You got to really, really want it to go for that price. But get it down to that. I mean, then it's comparable with pretty much any new gas vehicle that you're going to be getting. So that's a huge thing. So we'll see if that happens in the next few years. That's what he is saying with that. But again, we've got all the details of that at digitaltrends.com. All right, we need to get to topic number 3 because I know we've got some thoughts on this, and it has to do with Amazon with their event yesterday. There was the new hardware, which we expected, new Echo Dot. It looks like kind of like a snow globe now. You've got a home security drone, which is pretty impressive as far as I think as actually looking at it. Whether it's something that a lot of people are going to use, I don't know. And you've got all kinds of other things that they put out as far as the hardware side of stuff. But then there's the other things. They have Amazon Luna getting into the streaming gaming market, which is already competitive. They've got kind of a unique take on that. But there's also a bunch of artificial intelligence news in Amazon Sidewalk. And that's why, rather than go through all of these, which we've got all details at Digital Trends that people can look. Jeremy, what do you think were the biggest takeaways from this?
Well, a couple things. One thing I want to highlight here is when Amazon's done these big device explosions in the past, they've kind of surprised us with something really weird, whether it's glasses that have Alexa built into them, whether it's a microwave that's got Alexa built in them. There's a lot of weird surprises. Kind of didn't get that this time around. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Although there were in a range of new devices, like including these new Echoes that are just these weird spheres. It didn't feel like there's a lot of evolution there. If you ask me. The drone thing I thought was kind of crazy. To your point, Greg, I don't know if people actually are going to want this. I don't know if I want a drone buzzing around my house. This is also the company that 5, maybe 6 years ago said, we're going to start delivering all sorts of your packages by drone. Greg, how many packages have you gotten delivered by drone in the last, 4 years?
None. And I want them so bad. I really want a drone delivery.
I think what we're going to see is, in terms of delivery, we're going to have delivery by drone vehicles, so wheels rather than wings. And I don't know if that's going to be anytime soon, but there are companies that are working on that. Drone delivery seems kind of crazy, but in your house, I don't know. There's something to it. It's kind of neat to be able to pilot that thing around, and then it operates on its own little path. So maybe, who knows? It's an interesting technology demonstration. More interesting to me was the behind-the-scenes stuff. So they announced a lot of evolution to Amazon Alexa. So the voice itself is going to be a lot more natural language sounding. It feels a lot more like a human being talking and less like a robot. It just takes countless man hours, an incredible amount of programming to make that happen. There's also some natural speech recognition such that Alexa is going to be able to recognize when you're having a conversation and what actions it should take out of that. I think that's very, very important change for how we interact with these devices, although it's honestly pretty creepy. What are you going to do? The other thing I wanted to mention, we talked briefly about Amazon Sidewalk, you mentioned just now. I think this is really kind of revolutionary. So it starts out from your Rings, right? Rings are able to already network amongst themselves, but Amazon's branding it now as Sidewalk. So Ring devices and other devices are going to network themselves together using this Bluetooth low power energy system, using a bunch of different networking technologies, and create a little network of their own with your next door neighbors. I'm not sure exactly where they're going with it, but it feels kind of like another platform that's being built out, maybe to compete with some of the existing technologies like Zigbee, Z-Wave. If Amazon owns yet another platform, it becomes much, much harder for anyone to compete with a company like that.
Right. I mean, and yet something like that, it is a really interesting thing that they're building with it. I think that some of the benefits they mentioned were great. It's like you can connect devices that are further away from your house. You could have something that's away from maybe your Wi-Fi network, but it could tap into somebody else's just at this low end. But yeah, I want to know more about it as far as how they're handling the security side of things. And it does seem kind of strange if you're networked in an entire neighborhood, in theory, where they're bouncing off of each other. But yeah,
what's cool, if you think about the Echo line of products, right? They started out as speakers. And oh, by the way, there's this assistant that's in there, right? Think back to 4 years ago or whatever, you were getting a speaker and you could ask it to play some music, which to be honest is what most of us still do with these things. But it's also a Trojan horse to get into your house and to do some other stuff. And Amazon's built an ecosystem of other services they can sell to you based on the fact that you've got that thing in your house. I think they're doing the same thing with the line of Ring products, because this is the exact same service being built into something you're getting. You're not getting it for this, right? You're getting a Ring because it's a video doorbell. And now all of a sudden, oh, it's got this extra feature. Maybe they can upsell it to you. Maybe it does more things. Maybe it's good for you. Who knows? It's just an interesting move from a company. It's Trojan horses all the way from Amazon these days.
Yeah. Well, and it's a fascinating thing to think about too, just where they're going to go with it. And like I said, we've got all the details of all of that and every other piece of hardware and everything else that we talked about at Digital Trends. You can dig into it, and I highly suggest that. The products are interesting in their own right, but some of the other stuff, the underlying technology, really fascinating to see where that goes. And Jeremy Kaplan, editor-in-chief of Digital Trends. I realized I didn't say your title at the beginning of this because I was so excited to get into it. He's the guy. And Jeremy, thank you so much. Always great talking tech with you and getting your opinions.
Likewise, my friend. Good seeing you.